Alright, I've been dying to play this game since it first got announced, so I am not gonna rest until I beat this game. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of I Just Beat This Game in 48 Hours. I'm on my 9th cup of coffee. I'm f***ing tired. I've been a fan of the Legend of Zelda series for almost 15 years now. Ever since I played Twilight Princess all the way back in 2006, I've grown an unconditional love for this truly timeless series. So in 2014, as a young man who had a job for the first time in his life, I did what anybody my age would do. I took my first paycheck, went to GameStop, and bought whatever the hell this extinct machine is. Look, I even got the Zelda version. Alongside it, I got 3 games. This one as a party game, this one as a joke, and Hyrule Warriors, a game meant to celebrate the legacy of what is the Zelda series. Now, if you know anything about the franchise, you know it's very unlike Nintendo to allow other companies to use their IPs. I mean, when your series is responsible for the most critically acclaimed game of all time, and 2 of the most hated games in video game history, it's easy to see why. But I'm so glad that Nintendo allowed the team at Koei Tecmo to utilize the Zelda series, because Hyrule Warriors was fantastic. Just seeing all of our favorite characters and locations in this bright HD world was enough to make fans happy. So when Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, a prequel to the new critically acclaimed Breath of the Wild, was announced, you know it was a day 1 pre-order for me. Come on, I'm a sucker for Guardian keychains. So how will Age of Calamity compare to its predecessor Hyrule Warriors? I mean, this game was considered a celebration of the Zelda series up into the events of Skyward Sword. So are they just using Age of Calamity as a shameless cash grab? They've got Baby Yoda, I mean Baby Guardian. This is Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. I mean, look, the name's right there on the screen, you can read it. Age of Calamity, as the name suggests, starts out right in the middle of the dreaded Great Calamity, the center point of Breath of the Wild's primary story. We see Hyrule decimated, torn to smithereens, looking much like the chilling, destructive environment that we've grown accustomed to in its predecessor. But out of the darkness shines a small ray of hope that's ready to save all of Hyrule from danger, in the form of this little baby guardian. Look, this thing is cute, I'm not gonna deny it, but I ain't buying into that bullshit. We already have Baby Groot, we've already got Baby Yoda, we even have a Planner's baby in the form of Baby Nut, so it's gonna take a lot more than just that to convince me to play this game. I'm sold. Flashback to present-day Age of Calamity, which would be past Breath of the Wild. This thing is gonna get very confusing very quickly. Here we see King Rome leading the Hylian army into war, commanding the battlefront from atop the castle walls, with Link standing side by side with the rest of the Hyrule army, and holy crap, we're already in the game! As this is a Warriors game, Age of Calamity captures the 1 versus 100 style of play. The mission here is to take down hordes of enemies in the hundreds as quickly and methodically as possible, alongside your allies in the Hylian army. The Hylian army that truly doesn't do anything. I'm not kidding. Your army, like in most Warriors games, is simply there for aesthetic and to help bomb the frame rate. Yeah, unfortunately, that's one of the first things I noticed. To be fair, I don't care about a 4K 60 frames per second experience. As long as the game runs smoothly, I'm perfectly content. However, there are times that I've found that this tends to be overwhelming, especially during boss encounters. But honestly, it's not as bad as I've seen others make it out to be, and really doesn't bog down the experience that much. Other than that, the game feels great, just like the first Hyrule Warriors, nailing that feeling of fighting the war against Calamity Ganon. It really makes me feel like I am the Hyrule Warrior. Now, as for the combat, this feels absolutely refreshing, such a step up from the first game. Characters have a much more dynamic and enhanced moveset. It feels like much more of an intimate experience to utilize each character. The first game tends to have a big problem with this, as some characters had vaguely similar traits to each other. But I think Hyrule Warriors really nails this. Sure, you can button mash to get to the end result, but each of these characters seem to have a lot more depth and originality to their individual movesets. And this is only aided by the Sheikah abilities. See, Age of Calamity borrows these bombs, magnesis, and other abilities from Breath of the Wild, and does so in a fantastic way, using these assets to counter moves or to clear a path on the battlefield. I especially love the fact that it's identical to the control scheme of the original Breath of the Wild, but also that each character has their own custom traits for these abilities. Link's bombs throw completely different from Impa's, while Zelda manifests a guardian machine that's so fucking cool. I especially loved Impa. She was my favorite to use by far, being able to make clones of herself, place explosion paper around her opponents. Her final attack summons a toad on the battlefield to slam her enemies, and her run reminds me of something familiar. It's Naruto. She's just Naruto. Seriously, she can even do the hand jutsu. But the one thing that needs to be praised more than anything else is the game's excellent UI design that makes it hard to believe that this game is separate from the mainline title. The inventory slots, the input commands during combos, hell, even the boss meter is reflective of that Breath of the Wild charm. The only thing that's slightly different is the minimap and the character icons, but this feels wholly necessary. The original Breath of the Wild was a blank canvas for you to explore, so the map was more of a radar rather than an overhead layout of the area. I was actually going to talk about how you couldn't zoom in on the mini-map, which was a major complaint I had until I finally figured it out. 25 hours into the game. But you can also pick and swap between 4 different characters at almost any given moment during the story. This was introduced during the Switch port of Hyrule Warriors, but feels just as fantastic here. Also returning is being able to dictate where you want your units to fight by assigning them different locations on the battlefield. But much like the original, it doesn't really feel like I'm making a dent in battle when I'm not actively using a character. Or if I am, I can hardly tell a difference. Now once the first level is over, we see our options open up, and let me just say, take a look at these renders. I mean, the ones for Hyrule Warriors were pretty good, but damn, these are some of the best renders I've seen in gaming, and they weren't even made by Nintendo. Allegedly. I mean, you know you're doing a good job of replicating an art style when I can't even tell if you created this image or if Nintendo supplied it. Instead of having a navigable menu like in the first game, Age of Calamity uses its world's map as the layout for everything that you do. Story challenges, shops, it's all here. This was a little jarring at first, not having everything laid out on a typical title screen, but I eventually warmed up to it. Now, progressing through the story is obviously the point of the game. While you're here, you can complete side quests and missions to help the residents of Hyrule. It's fairly atmospheric to know that by collecting these items, it directly helps the NPCs throughout the world. But if you're anything like me, you end up just doing this. So once you finish the first chapter, the game opens up much like the original and allows you to pick between the 4 champions, able to beat them in any order that you please. Maybe you want to start out with a strong brotherly bond of Daruk, or maybe you like the strong will that Urbosa and the Gerudos provide. Or maybe you're just a f***ing dick. Personally, I went with Mipha first. The Zora have always fascinated me in the mainline titles, so being able to see the Zora Kingdom in all its glory was surely something I wanted to experience immediately. Nah, I just really wanted to see Baby Sidon. I've always loved his character, especially in Breath of the Wild. I just wish he was playable here. And I'm glad I picked Mipha first, because afterwards you get to pilot a divine beast. Now this feels powerful. Being able to slaughter a massive amount of enemies in quick succession, it's such a rush of adrenaline. For about the first 30 seconds. I found this to get monotonous fairly quickly, and while it is fun to a certain degree, I did find this to lose its luster, especially when I'm flying around searching for an enemy for 2 minutes. It really slows down the pace of the game. Now, as far as the pacing and story goes, Age of Calamity follows Zelda as she is trying to awaken to her divine power as the goddess. Meanwhile, during this, researchers are trying to prepare for Calamity Ganon by tapping into the ancient Sheikah power led by the team of Robbie and Pura, their younger versions from the first game. Fun fact is Pura is actually voiced by Kate Higgins, who did the voice of Super Mario Odyssey's Pauline and sang Jump Up Superstar. Now, this doesn't have anything to do with this video, and I've actually talked about this before on the channel. I just think that's really neat. I feel the story does a pretty fair job at building upon what Breath of the Wild has created, but it's not perfect, and I do feel like Nintendo and Koei missed some good opportunities here. This would have been a great time to show off more backstories and interesting lore to the Guardians in their residing cities, but I feel this kind of falls short here. Although I will admit, it is nice to see characters fighting side by side. Revali actually compliments Urbosa, calling her a strong warrior, but I left the game wanting more from these characters, and honestly, I feel like the Champions Ballad DLC from the first game did this a lot better. Also, just a side note, I was really excited to see more character development from Revali and where his animosity towards Link comes from, but it turned out just to be a one-track character that can only be described as this right here. Please, everyone, if I'm missing something, please let me know. I really want to like him. But despite this hiccup, I truly did enjoy this story. See, the original Breath of the Wild was an exploration through the eyes of Link, while Age of Calamity focuses on our Princess Zelda. And the character development serves her well. See, Link and Impa are doing an excellent job in serving the kingdom, but Zelda unfortunately hasn't awoken to her powers yet, with the time limit of her 17th birthday quickly approaching to when the Calamity will strike. Seeing this gentle personality get frustrated with herself as that date draws near really struck a chord with me as I'm watching her interact with those around her. And all of this leads up to the Great Calamity, and though it took a while to get to in-game, once the Calamity is started, the game really kicks it up a notch in its action and storytelling.
The Calamity is here?
Now this is one thing that really pissed me off about the game. As soon as the Calamity starts happening, everybody acts all shocked that it occurred. Urbosa even says it looks like we've been taken by surprise. Surprised by what? We knew the exact date in which this would happen. Anyways, fighting through the Calamity is a joyride of emotions and combat. Watching this whole world fall around you is exactly what we've been waiting for in this game. So seeing Zelda defeated outside of the city walls, even though we know what's gonna happen, still feels melancholic, and I think they did a great job at capturing that. But even though we're almost done with this story, I still have no idea why the baby guardian's even here besides stealing the Sheikah Slate and saving Pyrrha and Robbie. So the baby guardian brings back the characters from the future. You knew it! Which honestly was extremely jarring for me at first. Obviously, the only real point of the guardian being there was an excuse to bring back these 4 characters, but I mean, I get to play as Riju and Sidon. I'm not gonna sit here and complain over something so trivial. The ending is the strangest thing of all. Going into this, we all knew that the game was gonna end with all of the champions defeated and Link being brought to the Shrine of Resurrection, but that's not what happens. Zelda and her allies are truly successful in undoing the Calamity and restoring peace to Hyrule. So where does this lead the canon of Breath of the Wild? This game leads us with a lot of unanswered questions about the Breath of the Wild timeline. Obviously, this game was intended to satisfy those waiting for Breath of the Wild 2, but since this is a canonical entry, will that tie into the story? I can almost guarantee that answer is no. Having to play 2 games to understand the third is very unlike Nintendo, so don't expect anything more than a slight Easter egg to appear in the sequel. Age of Calamity leads a lot to wonder about this theory of alternate timelines and different outcomes, but I mean, what did we expect from the confusion regarding Ocarina and its multiple pathways? Did I enjoy Age of Calamity? Oh, absolutely, without a doubt. It does a fantastic job of capturing that charm and style that Breath of the Wild gave us, while innovating and building off of what its predecessor brought to the table. It's by no means perfect. I mean, it still has Zelda voice acting, but you can control the baby guardian on the loading screen. You've gotta get this game. I would definitely recommend this game if you want some quick fun and an expansion to the story, because this game truly brings the princess that we've grown to love in Breath of the Wild to the front and center. Hyrule Warriors manages to bring a heartfelt story that we genuinely want to care about and stands great on its own as a standalone game rather than just filler content until the highly anticipated sequel. If Breath of the Wild gives us a deep story that enthralls us into this Legend of Link, then Age of Calamity definitely flips the script and gives us this tale of the Legend of Zelda. God, am I really gonna finish the video with a joke like that? I'm going to sleep. Honestly, I'm so tired right now. I don't know if I'll have a blooper. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks.